transportation director, and ways to recruit and retain drivers. In the meantime, we have leased drivers, we have leased mechanics, we have hired a substitute transportation director who has now been released back to her time in retirement. And we advertised and we did hire an interim transportation director. He is doing extraordinarily well at this time, and the bus drivers are starting to appreciate him. Gather information needed for the board to make a solid decision for resolve, and that will be coming in February, February. Finance, provide comprehensive training to the business manager. Recommend that the trainer provide monthly reviews of the 22-23 budget accounting work alongside West Monarch County School District business manager. We will tie all the pillars and the goals and objectives of the new 5-year strategic plan to the district budget. This will bring forth both responsibility and transparency in spending, so that the magic number really for all districts, if you talk to any superintendent, your personnel should be running between 80 to 85% of your entire budget. We're a little low in this district. I hear we're in the 70% range, 70-something% range in personnel. I'm going to take a look at that with Steffi in the near future. We definitely need to do something to bring up the classified staff salaries. We're way low in those categories, and we'll be looking at raising those, and I will be working with Steffi. Student achievement. Provide systemic instructional classroom management and training backed by solid years and years of research. I introduced the district to a program called Quantum Learning. I have gotten very positive feedback on the things that I have shared about quantum learning. It is all based on brain research, and it brings a lot of joy, a lot of engagement, both student and teacher, and just a lot of organization to the ways that we teach strategically. We have entry plans for students, we have exit plans for students, we incorporate music, we incorporate color, we incorporate a lot of strategies that will help the teachers be systemic in their instructional methods K through 12, so that kids can count on a way that things are delivered kindergarten through 12th grade. I will be talking more about quantum learning at the January 11th 3Cs meeting. I've talked about it before, and I'm going to talk about it again, and then I'm going to talk about it some more, so that everybody understands what it is. You can be a great teacher, and I want you to remember this, but if you work in a failed system, your work will quickly dissipate. So it doesn't matter how good you are as a teacher, if you're not working in a system that's working together, your efforts are not going to be realized. Create a plan that will bring systemic workings to all district measures. We are developing our 5-year strategic plan on 6 pillars. These pillars are instruction and learning, communications, culture and climate, technologies, transportation, and facilities. My leaders are working extremely hard with those pillars right now. I have a team that's working on every one of those. They're writing out the long-term goals and the short-term objectives, and those are defined by who is going to do what and when. Plus, each of those pillars will be given a budget, so that the 15 to 20% that we're not spending on personnel, that's pretty easy to bring down. If you got $1 million, $1.5 million, $2 million, that's pretty easy to target. When you've got 6 pillars, where you're going to put that money, then any taxpayers at any time can come in and say, hey, can I see where this is going? I'd like to see where my tax dollars are spent. Simple, it's going to be laid out right in front of you. Time. Investigate and create a school calendar that will enable leaders and teachers ample time to work together for effective implementation of the systemic plan for improvement. And I'm hoping to be able to glean those Friday work days, if we do so move to a 4-day work schedule, to work with those leaders and to work with those teachers and bring this system into a place that it has not seen in a very long time. Recruitment and retention. Consider a 4-day week for possible human benefits, quality of life, classified salary increase probabilities, transportation concerns aided. Drivers can take Friday trips to get students where they need to be and attain the extra income they need. Create a recruitment brochure that highlights West Bonner County School District attractions, with emphasis on our goals. Curriculum. Set up a new curriculum committee as per our new board policy. Investigate all possible curricula after attaining parental input in regards to content, which will be coming up January 11th. There is a strong disagreement between progressive and conservative points of view. It is recommended that the new curriculum committee consider both the new state 2023 curriculum list and as well as curricula such as classical education. I will be meeting with the executive director for classical education on the 26th in Bonners Ferry, and I'm going to sit down with him and I'm going to learn more about this whole thing and how it can be, the possibility can be instituted into a public school education. And he will be our guest speaker on January 11th. Communication. Continue 3C meetings. Change the meeting time to 5 p.m. so more people can come. Continue all effective communications currently in use. Investigate new avenues to enhance communications. Facilities. Facilities Committee will continue to meet, study, and plan for the assertion of facility goals and objectives of the 5-year plan. Summative. This is my personal summative, maybe not yours, so this is personal to me. West Bonner County School District is facing several critical issues due to systemic failure. This is not to be taken lightly, but in a concerted effort, and will demand all stakeholders to work together in tandem. Change is difficult, and weighing the consequences versus the advantages brings forth decisions that may never merit 100% agreement. That is the hard fact for leadership. As your current superintendent of schools for West Bonner County School District, I lay my hat on this summative statement. I am so hopeful that the community as a whole will recognize that the district is currently working very hard to transition our direction with a well-defined roadmap for opportunity. As one may guess, this opportunity will no doubt take calculated time management and resources. As the ultimate leaders of the West Bonner County School District, you, the Board of Trustees, has recognized the need for change, and change is here. That being said, and as you are all aware, our district, like those throughout the state of Idaho, are reliant upon supplemental levies. I am asking, please, for you to support this change that has transpired through your positive direction. Support the West Bonner County School District by putting forth a resolution for the 23-24 supplemental levy so that future goals are achievable. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Jackie. Treasurer's report. Steffi, do you have anything for the treasurer's report at this point in time? Okay, are there any questions from board members on the treasurer's report, or should I move on? Okay. I don't think I had any on those, so I will move on to comments from the audience for items on the agenda. And Maureen, I think you had one. Thank you. Be careful.
Good evening. Let us pray. Thank you, dear Lord, for all the blessings you give us continually, and in particular for your Son, Jesus Christ. Please bless us with your presence tonight and open our minds and our hearts to your will. In Jesus Christ's name we pray. I wanted to, first of all, just thank both the board and the superintendent for all of their hard work and efforts at working on improvements. We really appreciate it. Thank you. And then my comment was on the transportation handbook. I just noticed when when we had the bus drivers here at that one meeting, they were saying some of them were having the parents, guardians sign whatever that form is that they need to be, that their students are going to be, or their children are going to be on the buses. And some of them were saying that they didn't necessarily have the parents and guardians sign it. I just remember one of the bus drivers saying, yeah, she made sure that, she had those in. And I don't know if that's in the handbook that they need to do that, but I just thought it was a really good idea that they have it, for sure. That's all. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you, Maureen. Thank you. All right, so moving on, it's just before I just pause, does anyone want to comment on an item on the agenda at this point, or everybody good? Okay. Comments, consent agenda. There's approval of the minutes of the meetings, pay the bills, new hires, and resignations. I'll need a motion, and I'll need a motion and a first and a second.
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we accept the consent agenda.
Okay. Need a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, first by trustee Rutledge, second by trustee Barton. Are there any questions specifically on any of those items on the consent agenda? I think the only question I had, Steffi, really quickly, was that it seemed like there was a different format in that consent agenda, and I wondered if you could answer that question.
Refresh me on
It looked like there was, and maybe we could, the first part is the voucher supplemental account, and then,
specifically with the bills, is that what you're referring to?
yes, to the bills, sorry.
No, that's okay. I apologize because you wrote that down as one of your questions.
And that was the only one I really had, just a
So
quick
I
clarification.
put, in layman's terms, the exceptions here. These the board approved to be run and dispersed to not incur late fees, etc. for business operation purposes. So I just made sure that those were clearly identified as being exceptions,
Okay,
allowable exceptions, and then these would be the normal bill run or check run, if you will.
okay.
Does that answer your question, Madam Chair?
It did. I don't know if you, I know we're trying to be quick on time tonight just because of the weather, so these are online and people can see them online.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, absolutely.
So they're available online.
And like I said, I made sure that they were clearly labeled as exceptions, so that if there were any discrepancy on that, we could identify it immediately and reconcile it.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions, or shall I call for a vote? Okay. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the consent agenda is passed. Old business is the policy, second reading of policy 1100 membership. Steffi, can you, probably can't pull that up one very easily. Did you put that in there? Basically, this 1100 is the legal description of the zones based on the census. And that's basically what we're approving. We saw it last time.
Yep.
If anyone wants to plot out the legal description, please go ahead.
I can pull it up if somebody wants to do that again.
Does anyone need to see it? Is that enough of a discussion to know what it is?
Yep.
Okay, so basically it's a legal description for us, for the zones. All those in favor of approving the second read of the policy 111 membership? Actually, I need to bring it to the table. I need a motion and a second. Sorry.
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we bring to the table a discussion of policy 1100 membership.
Okay, I need a second.
I'll second that.
Second by trustee Barton. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, moving on to Senator Herndon. Thank you. It's kind of a question and answer time for you. Just a footnote, I did reach out and did talk with Representative Sage Dixon yesterday, and he had a family conflict with something else, and given the weather, I said defer to say, go ahead and do your family gathering. Please don't, because of the weather. And he suggested that in the future, maybe next session or in January, February, we might be able to Zoom with him and get an update on, and Senator Herndon and Representative Sauter maybe to get an update on what's going on in the legislative session. So I will go ahead and, I guess, if Senator Herndon, if you want to go ahead and tell us what you're up to, and you're welcome. And what committees you're on, and we'll see if there's any other questions board members might have.
So I'm Scott Herndon, State Senator for District 1. And our legislative session does start January 9th, and we'll be back for the inaugural address on January 9th. Our committees will begin meeting immediately the next day, especially JFAC. I'm a member of the Joint Finance and Appropriations Committee and also of the Education Committee in the Senate. The Senate, just so everybody's background, has, I think, 20 new members out of 35 of the Idaho State Senate. So it's going to be very different this session than any Senate we've seen in previous years. And I can tell you the constitution of the membership, of their background and their political philosophy is quite different than any previous body of our Idaho State Senate as well. On the education front, we're going to see, we do have a new state superintendent of public instruction, so that's Debbie Critchfield. And I know she's got a large agenda. However, she hasn't shared it with everybody in the legislature yet. So as far as the details of what the policies that are going to be translated into legislation, I think we're going to be seeing that after we start on January 9th. The House Education Committee, so on the other side of the rotunda, is almost virtually an entirely new committee as well. They have a new chairman this year. Our Senate Education Committee is a new chairman. And some of the big things in education that I'm expecting to see, I'll cover a couple of things, one related to funding and then one related to actual curriculum and some of the social issues that are going on. So number one, I know we're going to see a bill, we're going to see two related to education. I'll call it education choice, education freedom, school choice. A lot of people have different labels related to it. So two bills that we're going to see, one is going to be an Arizona style education savings account. And you can look up, you can do a Google search if you want to get familiar with it. It's basically where money is allocated to all of these students in the state. And I don't know exactly how much we're going to end up with in that bill here in Idaho, but I think it's targeting somewhere below $5,000 per student. There will be conditions attached to those monies. You'll be able to use those monies for attending a private school, books, and other resources for education, including laptops and things of that nature. The bill is not finalized yet, but I'm just telling you one thing, that's one bill that will be coming. I'm expecting that we're going to get resistance to that from the IEA, which is the Idaho Educators Association, basically the teachers union. I'm not sure where the ISBA is going to fall on that at the moment. The big argument will be that if we do anything where money follows students, and it could possibly direct public money into private education, then they're going to try to make the claim that we're going to be defunding or taking money away from public schools. However, I'm pretty sure with number one, we have a state budget surplus of $1.5 billion is our current estimate, which basically means that everybody in the room is being overtaxed presently. So that does also mean that we do have room to add money to education in the form of an ESA. A second bill that we're going to see, and it's one that I actually think I like better than the first bill, and I haven't seen the final drafts on either one yet, so I'm speaking from what I know is being discussed about the bill so far. And currently, our funding formula for schools in the state is extremely complex, and there are very few people in the state that actually can explain how school funding works. So there is going to be a new bill, and I've seen the spreadsheet, and I've had it described to me, and I'm a big spreadsheet person, and I got it in 20 minutes. So if you can go from a school funding formula that takes weeks or years to figure out and get it in 20 minutes, that is an improvement right away. It will be based on enrollment, which is different than the school funding formula today. So the net result of it is, I'll give you the two big components. Out of all of the school districts and charter schools in the state, all of the school districts, including West Bonner, will be ahead financially. And actually, your school district of the three we have here in North Idaho, on a per student basis, is ahead significantly more than LPOSD and SD 101 and Bonners Ferry. All of the districts in the state and charter schools will get about at least the same money, amount of money they do per student today. And the only two districts in the state that will end up with slightly less is Boise and Blaine County. And to understand why that is, they're the best finance districts in the state. The reason is they have a tax base that is significantly stronger than almost everybody else, and they have leveraged levies extensively. And the way this new funding formula works is it actually is trying to disincentivize reliance on levies. So it's trying to make that up with state funds, which in my opinion, for a lot of things is better. So that's going to be another big bill. The key thing that's also in that bill is we don't necessarily have to change total dollars going into education, but it creates also school choice. It'll have $120 million in the bill that is allocated to education savings accounts to the amount of $4,700 per student that parents can basically use for, again, a lot of educational items. So what we're trying to do is get away from, we're trying to get to a position where we give parents a lot more power over the education of their children. And we're using the same public money that we use for public education now to help do that without taking money away from the current schools. So that's pretty much the goal of that particular bill. So those are going to be two of the major funding formula or policy initiatives that'll probably be the most controversial. I'm expecting to see something from the state superintendent that is probably going to be a watered down version of school choice to try to counter either of those two bills. On the social front, we're going to probably see some of the bills that we've seen in previous years that have to do with sex education in public schools, specifically gender identity, and I'm thinking about the different topics. Erotica, there were a lot of interesting topics that are not biological sex education. And there's a bill that has passed 3 years in a row that passed the House with almost every Republican vote, and the Senate never took it up. That bill is going to be run again, and the Senate will take it up this time. And there's going to be a couple of other bills like that. We're also identifying whether this is something we have to do in 2023, coming into the session. We're going to have to basically say, we've had some schools tell us we want a state law that basically prohibits boys from using girls' bathrooms and girls from using boys' bathrooms. And that's actually a real issue. Even over in Sandpoint, they have 2 students at the high school and 1 up in Bonners Ferry that's requested to use the facility of the opposite biological sex that is on their birth certificate. So that bill, I was not expecting to see this session, but because of the demand for it from schools in the state, I think we're probably going to see that bill this session. I'll give you 2 more things real quick. One, and they're on property tax, because property tax is basically, West Bonner Schools is a taxing district. All that money is collected locally. It's assessed locally. It's dictated by the budget that the board sets. But homeowners, how many here saw a big increase on their property taxes this year? Okay, how many saw a decrease on their property taxes? Nobody, okay. So property taxes around here, assessments went way up, your market values did, but property taxes are also up significantly. And there is a bill that will actually reduce your total tax burden. It's the first property tax, an actual tax cut that I've seen in the legislature that I think is going to get a lot of traction. What it's going to do is take part of our sales tax revenues And right now, we're targeting, I'm gonna be a co-sponsor on the bill, we're targeting 10% of sales tax revenues, which is $300 million. And we're actually gonna pay that to the counties to apply as a credit on your property tax bill. So we're gonna be taking state revenues of sales tax and having the state pay the counties part of your tax bill. So your property tax bill, you'll get your tax bill, and in this case, mine was $2,500 this year, and you'll see on your tax bill a portion that the state is going to provide directly to the county. And it's gonna be hundreds, on my bill, $2,500, I don't remember the amount, but it would be hundreds of dollars for each homeowner. Then also, we're gonna see a bill that I'm also planning to co-sponsor to raise the homeowner's exemption and fix the circuit breaker. That will, that's a tax shift. That's gonna move money back to commercial properties, secondary homeowners, and agricultural and industrial properties. So those are gonna be a couple of the major finance impacting bills that all of us are gonna be affected by. I'm not expecting to see anything else related to income tax cuts or sales tax cuts this year. But that's gonna spend part of our money that we have in the budget surplus. Now I'll touch on one final thing, and that is that on September 1st, the legislature met in a special session, and they passed one bill. The governor called them into session to consider one bill. It was House Bill 1. And what that did was, there's a group locally or around the state called Reclaim Idaho who claimed a success because $430 million was taken from the state's general fund, and 2 new special education funds, and I don't mean special ed, I mean 2 new dedicated education funds were created. And $430 million now is obligated to come out of the state's general fund and be placed in these 2 other funds to be used for education. That does not mean that we're gonna spend $430 million more a year. All we did was move money from one bank account to 2 new bank accounts. And so I don't know what we're gonna see on education funding increases this year, but I suspect it's gonna be in line with the historical increases from the past several years, including trying to keep up with inflation. Those are some of the big hits. Open questions.
Any questions?
Are they gonna do anything about getting us more funding for facilities?
Yeah, that's one that I've been tracking quite a bit. And there's gonna be a lot of discussion about that, and someone does have a policy proposal to address around the state the great facility needs that there are. And so I haven't seen the proposal that I heard about is probably a no-go because it would actually significantly increase taxes on Idahoans. And I'm gonna guess that with a $1.5 billion budget surplus, we're not gonna be real keen on raising taxes. So, but we're gonna definitely be talking about facilities this session because there are a lot of people that care about it, I care about it. So I don't know what the proposals are gonna be yet though.
So, Maureen, I think Maureen.
Go ahead.
You guys should go. Well, the bill that may be reintroduced is, that did pass through the House and then not the Senate last year. Is that the one where it was requiring permission, signed permission from parents if the teacher was going to discuss sexual issues?
Yes, what it is last year it was House Bill 249, and it required a parental opt-in for certain sexual education subjects, whereas Idaho code on all the rest of it has a parental opt-out. So in other words, the kids would automatically be taught biological sex unless the district has a different policy, which Bonners Ferry, for example, they have a different policy. Everything is an opt-in up there. So it's standardized an opt-in on gender dysphoria teaching, sexual orientation teaching, erotica, and a lot of other odd social topics around sex. Yes.
Yes, as far as unfunded or underfunded mandates, when those happen, they put us into a precarious situation where we have to run a supplemental levy to cover that. Well, that puts a lot of uncertainty every 2 years, whether or not, how we're gonna govern or how we're gonna manage the district. Is there anything that you can do to eliminate those or reduce those?
To eliminate unfunded mandates or underfunded mandates,
Yes,
related specifically to the school district here.
correct.
So the good news is that I will have a seat on JFAC, so I'll be looking at budgets and I'll know basically what we're funneling toward education. There's going to be about 108 appropriation bills. I think they do education in at least 5 total appropriation bills. And then on every policy that we consider passing, there is what's called an SOP that goes with the bill draft, and it contains the financial impacts of the bill. And I would want to make sure that if we're requiring something, that we're also taking into account how that's going to get paid for, because I want to make sure that we're not putting our school districts in a worse position versus relative to where they are today. So I'll be keeping an eye on that for sure. We do, just so you know, the people that are like-minded with me do have a majority on the Education Committee in the Senate. And so we have 5 out of the 9 members that are in a caucus of our own. And we're definitely planning to stick together in our caucus. So if I see something I don't like, I'm going to guess that I can get a majority of the committee to basically stop something that's unfunded and make sure we get that corrected.
Okay.
I would say some of the unfunded mandates that we are seeing have been associated with special ed. And we get, I think that we have a fairly high rate for, I'm not trying to remember the numbers exactly, the percentages, but,
17%, 17,
and
15,
what is it, 17?
15.
15 across the board, but we only get so much for money for our elementary school, and then we get so much only for our high school, and we have to make up the difference. So there is a gap for us for a district that has a higher percentage of students that need assistance. So that's one of the big ones for unfunded mandate.
Okay.
So just keep your eyes,
Yeah, and may I suggest too that you get my cell phone number and I get some of your contacts. Anybody that wants information from me in real time. As stuff is coming through the Education Committee, we're typically going to have several days before it hits the Senate floor. And so, number one, we want to stop bad stuff in the Education Committee and not let it get to the Senate floor where we no longer have control over it. So I'm going to know a couple of days in advance policies that are going to be coming to the Education Committee. I'll put out a newsletter at least once a week, and if you haven't signed up for my newsletter, you can go to the state's website and you can actually sign up there, where you can go down, find my name in Senate membership and request to sign up. Alternately, if you could, if you want to have input on underfunded or unfunded mandates, if you can make sure you get me your cell phone number and make sure that I know that you want me to keep an eye out on something, then before it hits committee, or even if I'm in committee, if something's there that I have a question about, that I could ask you guys what your opinion is on something before we vote on it.
and also I noticed that for each committee, you can subscribe to the committees. So you get the agenda, you get the notes, you get all of that in real time. So like JFAC or Education Committee for House or Senate, we can do that and be monitoring it as well. But it sounds like you'll get it before it hits back, but that's also another way.
Yeah. And I should also, in my cell phone number, if you go to the state's website under Senate membership, that's my cell phone number there, plus my office number. And also keep in mind, we still do Zoom testimonies, so you're able to testify before Senate Education Committee or the House Education Committee from here. So I'd encourage you to keep an eye on the agendas if you want to have input. And then let me know if you're going to testify, because if you do and you want to add information and you tell me that what you want to say and you don't get enough time to say it, I can ask you questions, which will give you more time to get your information to the education committee. Okay, does that make sense? So you text and say, hey, Scott, I'm gonna say points A, B, and C, and if I don't get to C, can you ask me about that? Okay.
Okay, well, thank you. Are there any last minute questions?
Sorry, it's just that the facilities is another one, right?
Yeah,
Because
that's
you're
what I was
usually,
saying.
oh, go ahead, Anna.
Yeah, it seemed to me that there was an awful lot of demands, maybe not this last couple of years because of the COVID thing, but I know before that there was always, that was one of the big complaints, there was always these things that they wanted done on facilities and no money was being, that was one of the other really big things is, you have to fix this, this, and this, sorry, we don't have any money.
It's a
for
high
that.
percentage that they require, but your work, that they want renewed every,
There's a requirement, you're right, and there's a requirement, we get X amount, and it's almost 10, we only get about 10% to 15%, I think, but it's required to be more than that, so it's, well, it might be more like 72,000 or somewhere in the 72, it's more than 10%, sorry. But that we have to spend X amount, more up in that 300 to 400,000, so there's this gap there that we have to do. So it is, and facilities you and I have talked about, there are big issues with us and across the state of, and Jackie was mentioning that.
Yeah, and you're not alone in that. Bonners Ferry, Valley View Elementary School is in the same terrible condition, and then North Side and Sandpoint Middle School basically need millions of dollars put into facilities at this point too, over in Sandpoint, so.
Yeah, preventive goes a long way if we could have done it, but it's been difficult. What's that? All right, well, Scott, thank you for showing up. You're welcome to stay for the rest of our open meeting before we go into executive session, but thank you very much. And I'll send you my cell phone through email. And I think Keith has one here. So thank you. All right, moving on to new business. Right now, we're just going to, I think we can hopefully flip through this pretty quickly. We have I need to bring to the table the certificate of closure for the November 30th and December 1st closures of the school.
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we bring to the table certificate of closures.
Okay, second?
I'll second that.
Second by, first by Rutledge, second by Barton. Any further discussion on those? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, moving forward on the reconsideration and approval of transportation handbook. And Jackie, do you just want to quickly recap this one, just what we're doing and why we're doing what we're doing?
Where are we?
We are, Steffi, can you open up the transportation handbook? And then I think the reference was,
Yeah,
and then there's a policy that goes with it. I did see a gap between the policy hours, days, and the transportation handbook, unfortunately. So we just need to quickly look at those. But if, Jackie, if you'll just recap this one.
well, basically, it was just, when the transportation director brought forth the student handbook, the transportation handbook, Trustee Brown wondered why we had, students will be given a verbal warning, students will be given a slip, and buses will be suspended for 3 days. That was, in the original policy, we had the steps where it was the warning, and then the 3-day suspension, and then it was, I think it's the next one was the 5-day suspension.
They took out the 3 days.
They took out the 3-day and went straight to 5. And then our special ed director came forth and said, hey, that causes a lot of problematic things because we have special ed kids who, have manifestation of disabilities and things happen on the bus. And if we can't just, boom, jump right to a 5-day suspension, then you're off the bus. So we never changed, the original board policy never did get changed to in accordance with the quick fix in the student handbook, so that the board policy actually trumped the student handbook, because we got into a lot of trouble right off the bat with special ed and our services. So we backed up a little bit and said, wait, we didn't think that through. So let's go back to the original board policy and rewrite, take it back to where it was. So we put it back in its original form. So basically, the board policy now, the transportation was reversed back to where it was. So we're giving the kids the warning, the 3-day suspension, the 5-day suspension, and then you're kicked off the bus instead of going directly off.
I know, that one needs to be changed to 3, from
Yeah.
3 to 5.
I did correct
Okay.
that. I don't know where that came from, but
Okay.
I have corrected it.
Board books.
Is it? Okay, so it got corrected. Okay. So the gist is that we need an approval of this, so we'd need a motion to approve us switching that back to having that instead of 3, make it 5, but, switch back.
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we change the policy back to 5 days for the third infraction.
Okay. Second on that?
I'll second that.
Okay, and then, just to address Maureen's comment, I think these are supposed to be signed and given to the bus drivers, within 5 days of school start. So these should be, if the policy is adopted, I mean, if it's implemented correctly, it should be in the hands of the bus drivers and then get to people.
And that was forwarded to Daryl, the new transportation interim director, and he has that in, and it does require a student signature, parent signature.
Okay, all right, so all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, moving on. To our policy first reading. Steffi, could you open up 3340, the Word document 1? And then I know there's a PDF there, but these are basic. I'll need to bring these, I'd like to bring these all up to the table at one time, and then we can do motion separately to approve or whatever we need to. But if we can bring them to the table, then we can discuss them.
How many,
The whole group up to the table, and then we can discuss each one individually.
okay, Madam Chair, I make a motion that we bring the policies in the first reading group to the table for discussion.
Okay, need a second?
Second.
Okay, second by trustee Reinbold, first by trustee Rutledge. Okay, so quickly, or not quickly, but these are a group of policies. What you see on this when you read through it is the first one of the 3340 is what ISBA is presenting, sort of their revised version. It's very close to ours, which is the PDF version, which says West Bonner County School District 3340. So I guess my recommendation, so that this first read could go easier, maybe, is just to, if you're okay with the ISBA version that you see, is that we just approve that as the first read. I put the second one I put our West Bonner County School District policy to complement it, so you could see which each one is, the difference between the two. But they're pretty much, our policy pretty much followed the original ISBA, and the edits to the ISBA one are pretty much what would be the edits to our current policy.
Okay, just for clarification, I'm looking at the corrective action 3340,
Mm-hmm.
and it's redlined.
Yes,
The red lines are the ISBA additions, correct?
right, that's the update to it. And so if you're okay with it, I would, if people are okay with it, I'd ask for a motion to approve 3340 corrective action and actions and punishment. There is a summary. And just basically say these updates were made based on recommendations provided by the Idaho State Department of Education. These updates include corrections and further details on suspension and expulsion of students and disabilities. This is a required update to recommended policy. We already have the policy. It is then required because we have the policy, I would say. So, if, as I said, I'd entertain a motion when anyone's ready to approve this one in a second. or whatever your motion might be.
I make a motion that we strike the gender neutral language and leave the genders in there.
So leave his or her
Yes.
there. Okay, and
I'm trying to understand why.
do you want to table this one and we'll discuss it next month?
Sure.
These are all first readings. aren't they?
They're all first readings. They're all first reads. So if you want to make a motion, Keith, that you were, what you're saying,
Okay. I make a motion that we table this until we have full board.
do I have a second? Okay, and table it to, okay, and we're going to say date certain, but I'll just say, let's say table it. Okay, and you have a second. All those in favor of tabling 3340 corrective actions and punishments at this time, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, moving on then to 3340P, which is the corrective actions and punishment. This one is, the summary on this one is, these updates are also based on recommendations from the State Department of Education and deal mainly with disciplinary action in students with disability. The updated also includes a change regarding whether students are allowed to make up work while they are suspended from a class. The new item on this topic allows the board to choose whether makeup work will be allowed or not. This is a required update to a recommended procedure. And again, we do have a procedure on this already. So we would have to update it.
Does this go, this is in conjunction with the other one, correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay, I make a motion that we table this one for the same reason as we tabled 3340.
3340.
Yeah,
3340.
3340.
Okay, so I have a recommendation, a motion to table 3340P, corrective actions and punishment. I need a second.
Second.
Second by trustee Barton, first by trustee Rutledge. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Going on to next one,
3518.
the 3518, treatment of opioid overdose. And Jackie, I think you and Sergeant Davis had come up with the choice that you wanted on this one. This is for, again, treatment of opioid overdoses. Would you like to address this one? Steffi, would you mind pulling this one up for people to see?
Yeah, I gave you those, Stephanie, the changes that Mr. Davis and I discussed. I'll grab those from my office.
Let me see if I have the.
So I don't see anything marked up on this one.
No, but it's the first read in this one.
Oh, that's right, okay.
And so if Jackie will give me what she said, and I know Sergeant Davis is here, so he might remember. I think it was once a year, and I think you included the,
What's your training, and it's an online training,
what's it?
and then it'll be kept in your file at the district office that you completed the training.
Okay. So where it says training, and it says employees shall be trained once a year, and it can be online training on these topics. And then I think there was one more piece to it where it said that the,
Had to do with your training.
yes,
You suggested that be an ongoing thing because you might not be always here, so there could be a new SRO officer.
Okay. So in that under train, that first paragraph would be once a year online training, and include, if applicable, if the district school officer does not already carry, which they train and authorize, they may also be trained to administer opioid. And this one, you were saying that, there should be ongoing training for the district's, school resource officer. Right. So those would be what would be changed in that language in those bold sections. Steffi, were you able to pull that one up?
I just have the, and then I was.
It's up above.
Email.
It's up above, right?
There's no.
There it is, okay.
The original.
Right, and that's all that's what would be changed, and that's what we would be looking at adding to that for the second read. So I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion that we accept policy 3518 with the edits from Officer Davis and Superintendent Brandon.
One second.
Okay, first by trustee Rutledge, second by trustee Reinbold. Any further discussion? Hearing, seeing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, so this one will move forward to second read. Next one is immunization requirements, 3525. Pretty much the ISBA one and ours were the same. The only thing that ISBA did, and I will quickly read it to you, is they got rid of sort of ones that applied to child born on or before September 1st, 1999. And I think it was the fact that students are, this update removes columns from the tables of immunization requirements that apply to older cohorts of students. Unless your district or charter school still has students in these age groups enrolled, these columns can be removed from the policy. This is an optional update to a recommended policy.
I thought it was illegal for us to require immunization. I thought by the state of Idaho.
Exemptions.
There's exemptions.
Okay, if it's, so we have to exempt out of this? Is that how that works?
Yes.
Mhm.
So the physician would have to exempt the child in school.
There's 4 exemptions. There are 4 exemptions on that one. And then another one under communications of immunization requirements and exemptions.
So,
And I think this language is in the handbook. So it is in the handbook at the beginning of the year. Parents can see this information and it's part of their handbook.
So, Madam Chair, if I understand correctly, the state of Idaho, it's illegal to ask for immunization, but now we're making it required. How does that work?
No,
Is that
no, you
true?
can be exempt out, you can exempt out of it. You don't have to
So we can make a policy that nobody has to live up to. If they don't want to.
We can table this. There are several Idaho codes under 394801, 4802, and IDAPA that we probably should look at. We should probably be looking at in conjunction with this, and we can put it on the agenda. I mean, we can put it as a resource to be able to look at that actual language if you want to review it.
Something we can talk about, because it's even a waste of time.
Yeah, I make a motion that we table this until we have more information.
Okay, so I will look at we'll look at,
Second,
all right, first and second, first by trustee Rutledge, second by trustee Reinbold. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? Any abstaining? Okay, it passes to table it. So I'm just trying to make sure I note which ones are tabled, because I get in trouble that way.
3525 was tabled.
Yep, I've got the first two, and this one will be tabled, but I'll pull up the Idaho codes related to it, so that we can look at that in conjunction. All right, 5280 professional standards. Now, this one has ISBA, the first one that you see, basically strikes the full handbook of the Idaho Code of Ethics of the 10 principles and just refers you to it. Ours, the existing West Bonner County School District one has on the first one, it has, on R 5280, the first 2 pages actually kind of talk about personal conduct. And then it includes the Professional Standards Commission Code of Ethics. And that's the piece that first paragraph or 2 on the piece that says Professional Standard Commission's Code of Ethics, that's the same as the ISBA one. We, for some reason, added those first 2 pages of personal conduct that is unique to our policy. So the question would be, do we want to do we just want to adopt or look at ISBA and just have a very truncated, just focus on the code of ethics, or do we want to include that personal conduct component of it? That's the first question. Keep it simple.
So essentially, Madam Chair, we would be pointing to IDAPA's Code of Ethics as opposed to writing it in ourselves.
Right. In case IDAPA changes, then we don't have to worry about it being updated and we are matching it. It would be, we're just referring to it. So that's what that does by doing it, by making it reference that, it would be the current version of whatever IDAPA has. So it sort of takes the onus of having to constantly update it. And then the second part, as I said, is that on ours, we had that code of ethics with all that information, but the first 2 pages was our personal conduct, personal conflict of interest, insubordinate conduct, and then it went into the code of ethics component.
I don't see the part you were talking about.
Keep scrolling down. You need to scroll down to what would be our West Bonner County Personnel 5280. So keep scrolling. Or you might need another document open if you're going by documents. Because
I see.
it's another document. And we're almost,
5280 personal conduct
yes.
current.
Yes, and that would be, you'll see that there's 2 pages that are more wordy, and then it goes into the code of ethics.
Okay.
And if you want to table it, but just, that's what it is. If we want to table it for next time, but that's the breakdown. And then the only piece in those first 2 pages that I would like us to take a look at is above the insubordinate conduct, which references nothing in this policy shall require the superintendent board in the case when the conflict of interest directly relates to the superintendent to transfer an employee to a different position in an effort to avoid a conflict of interest, and if doing so would not be in the best interest of the district. We might want to look at that particular paragraph if we decide to keep the first 2 pages. If we don't decide to keep the first 2 pages and we just adopt ISBA, then we don't have to worry about it.
So Madam Chair, by adopting ISBA 5280, that strikes those first two paragraphs, is that correct?
First two pages,
First two pages,
correct.
and then how does it handle those situations?
I don't know. I'm not sure where those are handled. That's where we handle it in our policy.
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we keep our current policy with the exception of pointing to the IDAPA Code of Conduct.
Okay. All right, and have a first on keeping our current the first two pages of our policy and the Professional Standards Code of Ethics, but just pointing to ADAPA. So we would be using that language from ISBA is what I'm understanding. Do I have a second on that one?
Madam Chair, may I propose that we table this until we can look and do a little bit more research on what the IDAPA actually, the code of ethics is before we
Okay. And I
either
think,
strike or add.
okay, and it basically, the code of ethics would be that section that's being struck. But if you want to table it to look at that to make sure. Okay. If you would like to, I guess we need to pull, if Trustee Rutledge is willing to pull his motion, we'll.
I will pull my motion, Madam Chair.
Okay, and Trustee Barton, do you want to go ahead with your motion?
A motion that we table this until we can do a little bit more research into.
I second.
Yes.
Okay, got it. So we have a first and a second on tabling this so we can look at IDAPA, where it is linked to IDAPA. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, moving on. We have, moving on to comments from the audience for things that aren't on the agenda. Is there anyone who wants to speak at this point in time? Okay, hearing none. Moving on to board reflection roundtable discussion. Just really quickly, I put this on here, the budget 2023 audit and levy. Is there anything that people want to do with regards to, I think we're going to start moving into the budget, process now that the audit is complete, but does anyone need in the next month, in January, does anybody want any more information about the audit or any more fine tuning on, discussion on the audit?
Until we get
Okay, and then the budget, and and then anything on the levy at this point in time. I think when we look at the budget, we'll have to look at what our shortfalls are and our options, but as, there are unfunded mandates, and we'll be maybe needing to look at that levy component as well. In terms of the 4-day school week, next steps, I guess one thing I would like to do is call up a couple of the trustees. What I heard at that meeting, that work session community forum, was I'd like to call up one or two of the trustees that are, their schools are doing 4-day school weeks, just to get a sense of what they're
Yes.
interested in. I think, if I'm not mistaken, and Superintendent Branham can correct me, the calendar committee has recirculated and sort of updated the questionnaire, the survey, correct? Thank you, Mr. George.
It was put back out there, and as the board requested, it will stay out there until after Christmas break.
Okay, great, and thank you again. Didn't really Very well, thank you for all your efforts, although the calendar committee, all their efforts on putting the survey together, putting it out. Greatly appreciate it, and I'm sorry, I know there's hiccups, but we're getting through our hiccups.
Can I ask one question real quick about the survey? Is it possible to send the survey to the high school students who will be affected by the 4-day week, since they all have school emails, and then the students can actually take the survey as well? Maybe not the seniors, since they'll be leaving, but if this is something that's going to affect, the kids, should they have any input?
Mr. George, you're looking at me like,
They should have already received it. They should have, yeah, I agree.
But they are.
Well, I mean, it should have already.
When did it go out? Because I asked my high schooler last week and then seen it. Because we got one, to our parent, our personal email that you can only take one, so like I couldn't give that to our high schooler to take as well. And then he checked his email and said, do you know about it? And he said, nope, no, not yet.
I'll follow this.
Okay.
I know that there were some students who did respond already, and some that responded the first time as well, so I'll follow
Yeah,
up,
because
make
it
sure.
sounded at that first meeting that only one student had taken the survey, and maybe it's.
Right now?
I think,
That was a question really that Brenna had. Brenna's the one that's administering the technology-driven part of the survey. And Brenna was not sure whether the board wanted that to be solely an adult. Parents and community members, parents.
I feel like a lot of high school kids have jobs and
Yeah.
things that this is going to affect, so I
Younger
feel like it's fair to.
Or younger
include them.
siblings that they might now be having to take care of
I-
on day when they're at school or.
Totally open. I have no,
you have kids.
I don't care either way. I just need to let Brenna know. Do we open that up?
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we definitely open that up to the students.
And as the trustee with as a parent, a trustee with children's school, I think that's
Okay.
valuable.
So probably
it's
then
very
we
valid.
should probably set out, we don't need to change the survey or start the survey over, but we do need to probably resend that out to Skyward. So Matt, are you gonna contact Brenna, or do you want me to?
On it right now.
You contact Brenna and let her know, her and Ron, to rerun that on Skyward so that students are aware, or parents of each student is aware, and then we'll just leave that open until after Christmas break. That's fine.
Okay, great, thank you. Are there other steps with the 4-day school week that we want to see? Because the group that's here did attend that community forum. I gave you the notes. I know they were posted a little bit, obviously a little bit late, or I sent them out to you late, but is there anything else that people would like to see from that conversation?
I think just the survey, because there were questions whether or not the survey was available long enough, that we get a good window of opportunity to get a good cross-section on the survey, and then the pros and cons between either a longer school year or a longer day.
And do any of you want to contact any other trustees just to see how it works with
I
them?
would.
Okay, so Troy, do you want to, or no?
Well, actually, I know somebody who's a school teacher in Long Ferry, and another person who's respected in the community, and I've been trying to get in contact with them, I'm just having a hard time
Okay.
right now, so that's what I was thinking.
Okay, I mean, I held off on mine just to make sure that we were in agreement that it was okay. So I think we can maybe reach out and be able to report back of what we found from.
Well, we're getting all kinds of visitors at different opinions.
And the two that I'm interested in checking in with are the two, they're down south, and I can't remember, I think it's Weezer, voted for 4-day, and 2 of them voted no. And I wanted to find out why they voted no. I'm kind of curious why, what.
I would like to bring something up about this, or we had it open to the public, and I appreciate everybody putting their input, but I just want everybody to understand that we're just talking about this, and at that meeting, we were treated like we had made up a decision, and we were attacked. And that's all right, I can take it. But the fact of the matter is, that meeting was so that we could get input from the people, not get yelled at. Some of them were disrespectful. And I understand the emotions in it. But they need to come to the meeting and contribute, don't bitch. I'm tired of it. Everybody wants transparency, and our superintendent is bending over backwards to open everything up so people can come and talk. And if you talk to us respectfully, we can have a better conversation. But if you start yelling and being outrageous, I'm tuning you out. Because I don't care to hear from people like that. So, anyway. That's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you. So I may look at, there is a list, there's a spreadsheet that I put out with that, on that one pager related to the 4-day school week back in November that had references on it. There is a link to the school districts. So if you want to look at school districts that have potentially 4 days, I'll try to indicate, just as one out, not a conversation back, which ones I'm going for so we don't duplicate.
Okay.
But that's there and I can resend that so we can look at people we might want to. And that was one of the things that the committee suggested that we might look at reaching out.
No, like if there's somebody on that list that I want to come, can I get a hold of Stephanie, get information on how to do that?
Yeah. Or else directly with me, we can go on to the school district, we can find that person on, and I know that, I can probably find it quickly. If Steffi doesn't have time,
Okay.
if she runs into time issues.
Maureen has a question.
Yes.
Let me just say that I know a lot of people that were positive about it, but they weren't very vocal, so you did hear, one side. They appreciated it.
Thank you. So, just really quickly, I haven't gotten here, I'm going to interject it between B and C, and then we'll go to C. Steffi has decided that, is it okay, Steffi? Steffi has decided that in January, she's not going to want the appointment of board clerk. So, because business manager, she wants to focus on the business manager component. And so what I'm suggesting, I did some research. I called ISBA, I did some research. I talked to Kelly Fisher, the board clerk at Lake Pend Oreille. You can be appointed or you can be hired, but it looks like the recommendation is to go through our hiring policy 5100 and give it to HR, our HR. They have some descriptions. They've got Steffi's description as board clerk, and we also got the one from Lake Pend Oreille that they can look at. And we can run that over the next month. If you're okay, we're sort of giving direction. We're not making an action item. That if that's okay with you, then then what they have done at Lake Pend Oreille is the superintendent or the assistant superintendent and the board chair interviewed that person and then brought that recommendation to the board at the January meeting. And so, and you can always give thumbs up, thumbs down. You don't have to do it the opposite way, thumbs up, thumbs down. But if that's acceptable to you, that sort of takes it out of our hands a little bit and runs it through our system. HR going through the policy 5100 and the HR, it makes it cleaner, it makes it less cumbersome and make sure we don't fall into pitfalls with human resources kind of issues. So is that direction okay to take, give that direction to have that process started? So we would be in a position in January, the board could be in a position in January to appoint a board clerk at that time. We're hiring, appointing, but we choose that person at our annual meeting. And then we don't have a motion.
If the person is the board clerk, how come the board's not picking them?
Because we would have to, what they have said is that we will be picking them at the end, but it just runs it through a human resource it runs it through the process so that you don't trip up over yourselves in terms of human resource issues.
Madam,
You can have board members on the interview committee.
Yeah, we could potentially have another, it could be two of us.
Madam Chair, so just for clarification, because it is a paid position in the district, it does have to go through, it's better that it goes through HR to follow HR policies and guidelines, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Actually, what I'd like to say is, we'd like not to, for you to resign.
I know.
You understand?
I know.
Thank you for everything you've done.
Thank you.
You still have to bring cookies.
No, we don't want to, I know, when she said that, but we know that, don't want to lose her. She's been invaluable over this last year, especially these last 6 months, or since, I should say, since last year, since January. I mean, the things that we've gone through to try to, look at choosing a superintendent, through all the things that we've gone through, and having that person is very critical, understanding the laws, doing the detail. It's going to, filling that shoes. But I think going through that process and not having us do it would be helpful, because we'd have to figure out the interview questions. We'd have to figure out the whole process like we did for
Well, I'm
superintendent.
fine with, just as long as we got somebody from the board on the interview.
Yeah.
That way, because we have to make a decision.
Yes,
And they are working, they are our board club,
yes, yeah.
so, okay, as long as you get somebody on the.
Yeah, and I can double check. We might be able to have 2 of us.
So we don't need to make a motion.
We don't need to make a motion. It's not an action item. I'm informing you. We're just basically saying, go ahead, run it, get back to us. Get back to us.
Something for the board to keep in mind as well is a stipend position. So when you do take a look at the job description for the board clerk and compare it to surrounding districts, that may be something going through the process.
Okay.
So actually Kelly Fisher splits hers with half and half, assistant superintendent, or she's the assistant to the superintendent and she's half board clerk. And so sometimes it's not quite even, like during certain different times of the year, she might have more board clerk role, and other times more assistant to the superintendent. But like when they were hiring a superintendent, the board clerk spent more time doing that. So, different places, some people, we can also maybe look at what other places offer their board clerk. It's also as a comparison when we get down to it. But anyways, so we give direction.
A law that people can't go on strike, well, can't we pass a law that you can't quit?
Well, we have an opportunity when she resigns. I don't know how it works, but if she's on here, we can pull her out and say, no resignation. We don't approve the resignation.
I would love working with the board. I just would like to focus. There's a lot that needs to happen on the business side of things, and the board clerk duties have gotten to a point where I'm unable to. I'm taking weekend time. I'm working in the evenings. It's just unsustainable.
I understand.
Yeah.
Just joking.
No, and thank you for all you've done. Okay, moving on now to what is number C on the agenda. Board committees, committee monthly, special meetings, et cetera, and work sessions. I've asked Jackie if the 3Cs meeting in January, on January 11th, if she would be okay, maybe if we did that as a board work session and / community forum instead, in somewhat the similar format that we used for this last transportation and 4-day school week, so that we could take down notes. Obviously, there would be presentations, and then we could take in comments from the audience and do flip charts and then record those notes. I don't know what the other board members, I had asked Vice Chair Rutledge about that, but I didn't know what Troy or Carlin, what you thought about that, if you're okay with it, if you. you want to say? Troy asked you a question, so.
Yeah, he said that he liked the way that the presentation was at the 3C meetings where I find it a little bit, it's a balancing act because the 3C meetings is designed for community to discuss. And it's not a working session. It has nothing to do with the board. It has everything to do with the community.
Right.
It can be opening it up to the communication where, it's not going to be, it's going to be beginning by presenting to the people what the 5-year strategic plan entails and to give the community input. That's going to be the opening, and it's also a briefing on what is quantum learning. And then it's going to move into, okay, now we've got how we're going to employ teaching strategies strategically K through 12. The next thing is the what. What are we going to teach? What do the parents want their kids to learn? And what is the difference between conservative education, progressive, liberal education? The gap is getting wider and wider and wider. The controversy is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And it comes down to, what do you want? What do you want in your system? What do the parents want their kids to learn? Do they want the controversy pushed aside? So that's going to be a discussion for parents. And they're going to be able to take a look at what is classical education? Well, basically, it's going back to the way things were back in the baby boomers age. We learned reading, writing, and arithmetic and history, and that's the way it was, and all the controversial stuff was left out. Whereas now, with the progressive movement and at the college level, that's big stuff. So, but that's going to be a parent decision, not my decision. Parents have to be there. And so I don't know if the board wants to direct that, or if you want me to open that up, because it's really that second part is going to be, there's a presenter that's going to share with you, and then you as parents are going to provide your feedback.
And I guess that's the only question I have is capturing that feedback, and can we capture it so people can see that feedback?
So,
That would be that's where I'm wondering, that's where I'm thinking.
Madam Chair, if I could make a recommendation, I think the 3Cs meeting, the way Jackie runs those, is paramount. Now, if we want to be there as a silent observer, taking notes and capturing this, I would say that'd be the best way.
I would appreciate that. If a couple of you would come forth and then take your charts and take notes, that would be great. But I don't want limitations on public speakings. I want the parents to be able to communicate openly.
Well, my personal belief is that the 3Cs are like you said, and that's your thing. That's what, you're the one that started that, you're the one they've been pretty successful in my opinion. And I've attended a few of them, I like them. They're not a work session.
And I should not call it a work session, but I'm moving over to community forum, that's what it's more like, but I just want to be able to capture, some way be able to see if we can capture that information. Do we want to record that 3Cs to be able to, so people can see that input for transparency purposes? I'm wondering, especially since you're bringing somebody in.
I can have parents take notes too. I could have parents just as well as board members,
Right.
take
we could
charts.
we could take notes. We could be there and taking notes.
Sure.
If you want. I just want to,
I just don't want it to become a formalized thing with objection and this and that. You only have 2 minutes to speak.
No.
But then you just get into that, and it just gets. But all too, it's going to be the second part. I will not be interjecting in that second half. That is going to be a parental thing, and it's going to be, there's a presenter, and they're going to be asking questions, and that's going to be that.
Can we record it? Because I think there's going to be some really valuable information there, and that's why I'm wondering if there's a way to record
Write it down, either way, it's fine with me.
Because that's the only thing, that's why I was doing it as, when I say work session, but it's really what I'm looking at as a board community forum, that there's open dialogue, and that would be the only thing. So,
Somebody's got something to say.
would you?
Do you you air those on Facebook Live like you do the board meetings? Because that might be helpful, because if someone can't be there
We have
for
it,
that
but we
meeting,
can.
they can then at least watch it later, because you can still watch those live later.
Oh, yeah, we do.
We did at the
Yeah.
now at the
Yeah.
annex, we do. I mean, where
Because
we
that
were.
would maybe be helpful, because if a parent can't go to the meeting, they can at least then watch it later and see what that presenter said and what the questions were without being there if they're still working or something.
We'll do that.
Well, and they can still make comments on it or ask questions that might be addressed later.
And one of us could monitor that and bring them up. I mean, if I brought my computer, I can monitor it. And,
And it seems like in several of the meetings, we have the big, well, we did it with the transportation thing where we have the big white pieces of paper where we wrote down what people said too. And
That's what we were talking about.
that's what we were talking about, because I moved the work sessions more to a community forum or a way to get more input, but
well, we
if,
did it at one of the CCC meetings, the first one was CCC meeting.
Okay.
Anybody in the audience want to be note chart takers?
Ann's really good at taking notes.
Ann is really good at taking notes.
so if it's not a conflict, I can come and maybe if we've got the flip charts again, and I think we do, we can take notes. I mean, I think the setup of the junior high annex worked well. If Ron's willing to set it up, to videotape it, he did videotape it last time. I know we don't, it's done as a courtesy. People have to realize it's a courtesy, and if we don't always do it, doesn't, but we're trying to do it more often.
We have radio, like, and video for your wife.
Okay. All right, so the 3 Cs on the January 11th, will stay 3 Cs, and if you want note takers, I'll offer to be one note taker, or be able to watch it on Facebook. We can watch it on Facebook and identify if there are questions there, because it's not as rigid as a board meeting, a monthly board business meeting. We can look at that and try to see if there's if there's questions there.
Very good, thank you.
Okay, all right, and then just one quick one. Do we want to? I will put on. Does anyone have a work session that they want before the board meeting in January? On January, I think 18th is our board meeting in January. Okay, all right, so we'll just leave it at that, and then we need.
Are we having a facilities meeting
That day,
the 11th?
11th, yes. And I don't think we have any other committee meetings at this point in time.
We're gonna do that in the library over at junior high. I think Amber opened up the library for that.
Okay.
So this is still before the 3 Cs.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so we need to move into executive session. Want to thank you all for being here. Drive safely, stay warm, and Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Senator, it was a pleasure to meet you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Learning more from you.
Thank you. Thank you.
I don't know how to go about this, but I think that we need to make sure, I would really like to make sure this happens. So when they make that new bill, when it's an opt-out, I would like to mirror Honors Ferry's opt-in, which basically means that if the parents want it, they have to request it. It's not just given.
Okay, for the
So-
immunization.
No, for the sex ed.
So it's an opt, okay, so
Okay,
they have to
so-
opt into.
Yes, so basically, he said that bill that's gonna go through is an opt-out. That means that the school district will present it unless the parents opt out. I would like to make sure that we mirror Honors Ferry's opt-in. So basically, everyone's notified, and you have to say, yes, it is okay for my child to go through this sex
Do you want
education.
to, because that's also probably the immunization. Do you want to do you feel like looking at Boundary County?
Boundary County on that.
Yeah,
The immunization is a very standard blanket, and I was gonna talk to them. So like, it goes out at the beginning of the year, all you have to say is that your child is opting out, and there's nothing that you have to present for that. If you decide to do that as a parent, or then you can, but all you have to do is say that you're opting out as a parent, and like, or you can do, like my doctors, Like my kids only have a very small portion in municipals. So,
Yeah, and that's the thing, is I think we just did honors boundary has it, honors period has it. We need to look at the language and then maybe we could just use if you want to do, maybe do that.
but
Okay,
yeah.
so we need these signed.
I kind of thought that I was going to be talking at the work session one about the finance committee work sessions in January. Kind of needed to say that.
Maybe we can, but
Okay. One second.